Hello, my fellow educators. This is Darlene Rando, and this is for the class EDU 1107, January 2018. I'm going to speak to you today about the theory of moral development by Lawrence Kohlberg. To begin, let's meet Kohlberg. Who was Lawrence Kohlberg and what was he all about? To begin, he was born in New York City in 1927. He was born to Alfred Kohlberg, a successful silk merchant of Jewish ancestry. He was the youngest of 4 children, and his parents divorced when he was 11 years old. He graduated from the University of Chicago in 1 year. He attended Yale and earned a PhD in psychology. And he theorized 6 stages of human moral development. The basis of Lawrence Kohlberg's stages of moral development have 4 parts. Comprehensive stage theory of moral development was based on Jean Piaget's theory of moral judgment for children. According to Piaget, children naturally progress from a form of moral reasoning based on consequences of an act, that is to say punishment, to the one that takes the actor's intentions into account. Lawrence Kohlberg developed his theories in 1958. He stated that they were cognitive in nature, and his theory focuses on the thinking process that occurs when one decides whether a behavior is right or wrong. He has theoretical emphasis on how one decides to respond to a moral dilemma, not what decides or what one actually does. So the way that he set his experiment up is he interviewed 72 lower and middle class white boys, presenting each with a moral dilemma, whether it would be permissible for a poor man to steal medicine for his dying wife. The children's responses became the basis of a 6-stage theory of moral development. Kohlberg's 6 stages were grouped into 3 levels of 2 stages each: pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional. We will review these, each one individually. Level 1 is pre-conventional level. It is obedience and punishment orientation and self-interest orientation. At the pre-conventional level, morality is externally controlled. Rules imposed by authority figures are conformed in order to avoid punishment or receive rewards. This perspective involves the idea that what is right is what can get away with, or what is personally satisfying. Level 1 has 2 stages. Stage 1, punishment or obedience orientation. Behavior is determined by consequences. The individual will obey in order to avoid punishment. Stage 2 is instrumental purpose orientation. Behavior is determined again by consequences, and the individual focuses on receiving rewards or satisfying personal needs. What is in it for me, and what can I benefit from it? Level 2 is conventional level. At this conventional level, conformity to social rules remains important to the individual. However, the emphasis shifts from self-interest to relationships with other people and social systems, or social norms. The individual strives to support rules that are set forth by others, such as parents, peers, and the government, in order to win their approval or to maintain social order. This is also known as the good boy or nice girl orientation attitude. Behavior is determined by social approval. The individual wants to maintain or win the affection and approval of others by being a quote-unquote good person. Stage 4 is the law and order orientation, or the authority and social order maintaining orientation. Social rules and laws determine behavior. The individual now takes into consideration a larger perspective, that of social laws. Moral decision-making becomes more than consideration of close ties to others. The individual believes that rules and laws maintain social order that is worth preserving. Level 3 is the next level review. It is post-conventional, or otherwise known as the principled level. At this post-conventional level, the individual moves beyond the perspective of his or her society. Morality is defined in terms of abstract principles and values that apply to all situations and societies. The individual attempts to take the perspective of all individuals. Stage 5 is the social contract orientation, where individual rights determine their behavior. The individual views laws and rules as flexible tools for improving human purposes. That is, given the right situation, there are exceptions to rules. When laws are not consistent with individual rights and interests of the majority, it does not bring about good for people and alternatives which should be considered. Stage 6 is the universal ethical principle orientation. According to Kohlberg, this is the highest stage of functioning. However, he claimed that some individuals will never reach this level. At this stage, the appropriate action is determined by one's self-chosen ethical principles of conscience. These principles are abstract and universal in application. This type of reasoning involves taking the perspective of every person or group that could potentially be affected by their decision. Let's review the stages. When we look from stages 1 to 6, we have to look at the view of persons and the social perspective level. The knowledge and learning contribute to moral development. Specifically, important are the individual's view of persons and their social perspective level, each of which becomes more complex and mature with each advancing stage. The view of persons can be understood as the individual's grasp of the psychology of other persons. It may be pictured as a spectrum, with stage 1 having no view of other persons at all, and stage 6 being entirely sociocentric. Similarly, the social perspective level involves the understanding of the social universe, differing from the view of persons in that it involves an appreciation of social norms. What is the educational relevance of Lawrence Kohlberg's theory of morality? His theory explains that school children will recognize the importance of leading a morally ethical life. It is often used as a basis for the importance of morality of education in our schools. I know in my personal experience, it is used in my school, and it is a huge emphasis on conscious discipline, as well as mutual respect, which is treating others the way you wish to be treated. In my current autism spectrum disorder kindergarten class, we speak to these relevance in everyday life. In conclusion, moral judgment develops through the stages as each stage becomes more mature. Therefore, the student's decision process becomes more moral. Moral development plays an important role in our social interactions. Understanding how and why individuals make decisions regarding moral or abstract ethical principles such as justice and equality. According to Kohlberg, stage 6 is rarely achieved, but his theory is highly influential, especially in education. No other account has provided such a detailed explanation of children's moral development. Moreover, during a time when most psychologists were behaviorists, Kohlberg's work broke new ground by concentrating on cognitive phenomena. His theory also received much criticism, who argued that it ignored the distinct patterns of moral development exhibited by girls, since the boys were the only ones tested. So here are my interactive questions for you, my fellow educators. Which stage of development do your students fall in? Please write back on the forum and let me know. Also, do you agree with Kohlberg's theory? Is it something that you think is relevant for us today? I'll be looking forward to hearing your responses, and thank you for your time.